ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 9, Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. Text 15. Now here, in this section, text 14 to 28, Brahmaji is offering obeisances unto Lord, and Lord Brahma is offering prayers for the creative empowerment in creation. And text 15, this is Lord Brahma now highlights the power of invoking Lord's holy name, especially at the time of death. So we'll see this verse. Yatsyavatara gunakarma vidambarani namani yes suvigame vivashagrinanti tenaika janma shamalam sahasaiva hitva Sayanti apavritamamritam tamajam prapadye. Translation.
Let me take shelter of the lotus feet of him whose incarnations, qualities, and activities are mysterious imitations of worldly affairs. One who invokes his transcendental names, even unconsciously, at the time he quits this life, is certainly washed immediately of the sins of many, many births and attains him without fail. Purport: the activities of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are a kind of imitation of the activities going on in the material world. He is just like an actor on a stage. An actor imitates the activities of a king on stage, although actually he is not the king. Similarly, when the Lord incarnates, he imitates parts with which he has nothing to do. In Bhagavad Gita 4.14, it is said that the Lord has nothing to do with the activities in which he is supposedly engaged. Na mam karmani limpanti name karma phale spruha. The Lord is omnipotent. Simply by his will, he can perform anything and everything. When the Lord appeared as Lord Kṛṣṇa, he played the part of the son of Yashoda and Nanda, and he lifted the Govardhan hill. Although lifting a hill is not his concern, he can lift millions of Govardhan hills by his simple desire. He does not need to lift it with his hand, but he imitates the ordinary living entity by this lifting, and at the same time he exhibits his supernatural power. Thus his name is chanted as the lifter of Govardhan hill or Shri Govardhandhari. Therefore he acts in his incarnations, and his partiality to the devotees are all imitations only, just like the stage makeup of an expert dramatical player. His acts in that capacity, however, are all omnipotent, and the remembrance of such activities of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is as powerful as the Lord Himself. Ajamila remembered the holy name of the Lord Narayana by merely calling the name of his son Narayana. And that gave him a complete opportunity to achieve the highest perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
Next, Brahmaji says, "Let me take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, whose incarnations, qualities, and activities are the mysterious imitations of the worldly affairs." So sometimes the activities of the Lord, they may appear very worldly, but they are divine in themselves. Like, the Rasa Leela activities there, or Prabhupada gives example of the Govardhan Dhari activity. And such activities, and the names of the Lord coming from the activities, how the Lord derives the name? By various activities like Yashoda Nandana, Nandanandana, Girivaradhari. So the Lord performs activities which may appear imitation of the activities of the conditioned souls, but he will perform in a grand supernatural way, and thus various names of the Lord he will be derived. And by chanting these names, one's sins of unlimited births will be washed away, and one will attain the lotus feet of the Lord, especially chanting at the time of one's death, Ante Narayana Smriti. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, activities of the incarnations are kind of imitation activities in the material world. Again, just like going back to our father or parents and child in the garden example. And there, sometimes the parents may come, and parents may also imitate the activity of the child in the garden, just to delight the child and attract the attention of the child. Similarly, the Lord comes here and acts in different ways. Nato natya dharo yatha. Kunti Maharani prays like this. But Lord has nothing to do with the material activities. Lord is coming, acting like human-like form, but he is not human. Neither his activities are human, activities are superhuman. And while a conditioned soul, his activities may bind him, Lord's activities, there is no question of binding the Lord. Namam karmani limpanti, name karma phale spraha. And in fact, just by knowing this, itimam yobijanati, karma bhirna salipyate, that simply by knowing the Lord is not bound in the material world, one will become unbound from the material world. And Lord comes, he performs various activities, like he will lift Govardhan hill, he may be the son of Mother Yashoda, Nanda, this, that. And by doing all these activities, he doesn't need to do these activities. Why? Because what to speak of lifting a Govardhan hill? The Lord, in one of his incarnation, is lifting entire universe as Sheshanag, right? And all these incarnations, they are coming from the breathing of Mahavishnu, who is one of the plenary expansion of the Lord. So Prabhupada says, Lord can lift millions of Govardhan hills simply by desire without touching Govardhan. But still, when Indra showers the rains and Krishna looks for the umbrella and suddenly he sees Govardhan as umbrella, he picks up the umbrella and it becomes, the Lord derives the name Girivaradhari. And anybody who chants such names of the Supreme Lord is liberated and his sins will be washed away. And the classic example is Ajamil. Ajamil accidentally named his son Narayan, and he was very, very sinful person, completely lost from the Brahminical culture. And he had a son at the age when he was 88 years old. That was the time he had a son. And he was very attached to the son and calling, Narayan, drink this, Narayan, do that, Narayan. He was attached to son, nothing to do with the name Narayan. But incidentally, he had kept the name Narayan. He kept on chanting Narayan and thus attained the highest perfection of life. So this story will come in the 6th canto when we progressively see. So this is the power of chanting the holy names of the Lord. And that's why we will see that 2 generations back, all the names were, if we see our grandparents' names, they were all related to Rama, Krishna, Lord Shiva, or, some spiritual name will be there. Somebody's name will be Maharudra, somebody's name will be Madhava, somebody's name. Then the next generation, the name became the names became more like the qualities, Viveka, this, that, the name becomes from the quality came. Now, the next generation, the names are like alphabet, Sara, Lee, Alpha, Delta, those kind of names are coming. But now, fortunately, again, people are going back to the traditional names. Why? Because simply by uttering these names, one will chant the holy name and start accumulating pious credits, just like Ajamil did in his life. Next, text 16. So 16 to 24, Lord Brahma is continuing with his prayers. Here there is a prayer for guidance in divine role, creative role. यो वा अहं च गिरिशश्च विभुं स्वयं च स्थिति उद्भव प्रलय हेतव आत्ममूलम् भित्त्वा त्विभात विवृद्ध इव सुरु प्ररोहस् तस्मै नमो भगवते भुवनद्रुमाय. Translation.
Your Lordship is the prime root of the tree of the planetary systems. The tree has grown by first penetrating the material nature in three trunks, as me, Shiva, and you, the Almighty, for creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And we three have grown with many branches. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you, the tree of the cosmic manifestation. Purport. The cosmic manifestation is grossly divided into three worlds, the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems, and then it broadens into cosmos of 14 planetary systems with the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the supreme root. Material nature, which appears to be cause of the cosmic manifestation, is the only agency or energy of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Only under the superintendence of the Supreme Lord does material nature appear to be the cause of all creation, maintenance, and dissolution. The Lord expands himself into three, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, for maintenance, creation, and destruction, respectively. Of the three principal agents controlling the three modes of material nature, Vishnu is the Almighty, even though he is within material nature for the purpose of the maintenance. He is not controlled by the laws of material nature. The other two, Brahma and Shiva, although almost as greatly powerful as Vishnu, are within the control of the material energy of the Supreme Lord. The conception of many gods controlling the many departments of material nature is ill-conceived by the uh, foolish pantheist. God is one without a second, and he is the primal cause of all causes. As there are many departmental heads of governmental affairs, so there are many heads of management of the universal affairs. Due to poor want of knowledge, the impersonalist does not believe in the personal management of things as they are. But in this verse, it is clearly explained that everything is personal and nothing is impersonal. We have already discussed this point in the introduction, and it is confirmed here in this verse. The tree of the material manifestation is described in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as Ashwatha tree, whose roots are upward. We have actual experience of such a tree when we see the shadow of a tree on the bank of the reservoir of water. The reflection of the tree on the water appears to hang down from its upward roots. The tree of creation described here is only a shadow of the reality which is Parabrahman Vishnu. In the internal potency manifestation of Vaikuntha Lokas, the actual tree exists, and tree reflected in the material nature is only the shadow of this actual tree. The impersonalist theory that Brahman is void of all variegatedness is false because the shadow tree described in the Bhagavad Gita cannot exist without being the reflection of a real tree. The real tree is situated in the eternal existence of spiritual nature, full of transcendental varieties, and Lord Vishnu is the root of that tree also. The root is the same, the Lord, but both the real tree and the false. But the false tree is only the perverted reflection of the real tree. The Lord, being the real tree, is here offered obeisances by Brahma on his own behalf and also on behalf of Lord Shiva.
Now Brahmaji is offering obeisances. Your lordship is the prime root of the tree of the planetary systems. So planetary systems, Prabhupada says, is primarily into three divisions: upper, middle, and lower. And then the planetary systems expands into the 14 planetary systems. So there are three categories: upper, middle, and the lower. And also the tree is governed by the three personalities. That is me, Lord Shiva says, Lord Brahma says, and Lord Shiva and you, the Almighty, for the creation, maintenance, and dissolutions. And thus we further grow in many branches. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you, the tree of cosmic manifestation. So he's offering the obeisances to the Lord, who is the root of the tree, offering obeisances to the root of the tree. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that the cosmic manifestation is divided into three parts and further into 14 planetary systems. And the material nature, which appears as the cause of cosmic creation, like people sometimes they say, yeah, we worship nature. Who is God? They say nature. Prabhupada used to say, whose nature? Right? You just cannot have just nature. Somebody's nature it must be. Nature is Prakriti. Whose Prakriti? Whose nature? Like Prabhupada used to say, light. Array, don't say light. What light? It is tube light, bulb light, sunlight, moonlight. What light? Light is, okay, light means light. But light will have some origin of that light. Similarly, the nature Prabhupada said, okay, nature, but whose nature? So the whose nature is answered in Bhagavad Gita, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti, Suyate Sacharacharam, Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha. That the Supreme Lord, the material nature is under the full control of the Supreme Lord, being one of the energy of the Supreme Lord. So nature is not functioning on its own, just like it is conceived by the scientist and at times by some philosophers. No, the nature is working under the direction of the Lord, Mai Adhyakshena. Simply by the movements of the eyebrows of the Lord, the material nature is being controlled. Chaye Vayasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga. That just like the hand moves, and the shadow of the hand will automatically move. Sometimes one is simply focused on the shadow, one will feel, Array, how shadow is wonderfully dancing. Shadow is not dancing, sir. Actually, the hand is dancing and shadow is just the reflection of the hand. Similarly, Chaye Vayasya Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga. Durga is just the shadow of the desire of the Supreme Lord, that Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha. Thus, the Lord expands into three, Prabhupada says, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Now, these three expansions, Vishnu is Swamsha, Jiva is Vibhinnamsha, and Lord Shiva is between the Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha, because he is neither separated like a Jiva, neither, so he is a Shiva Tattva is separate in itself, right? And Lord Vishnu will take charge of the maintainer, and is not controlled by the laws of nature. But at times, both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they are controlled by material nature, right? And therefore, you will see there are so many beautiful pastimes that happen. One pastime is that Bhrigu Muni wanted to test who is the Supreme Personality amongst these three. And, the Bhrigu Muni's test is the testimony of being controlled by, at times, by the laws of material nature. And again, there are Brahma Vimohan Leela, and, there are so many other things are there. So what it means is, Ekale Ishvara Krishna. Although Prabhupada says there is no difference between, in a way, between Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the Supreme Lord, but still Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Lord Shiva is the Shiva Tattva. What is Shiva Tattva? When Lord Vishnu is in touch with the material nature, that is called as Shiva Tattva. Kshiram Yatha Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat. This is being explained by Brahmaji. That Kshiram and Dugdha is just the same, but there is special transformation, Vikara Vishesha Yogat, then Dugdha becomes Kshira. Right? So this is how Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma is Jiva Tattva. Right? Sometimes people feel that there are many different gods all on the same level, and they are doing different handling. Indra is handling rains, Varuna is handling Samudra, ocean, and Lord Shiva is handling destruction, Brahma is handling creation, Vishnuji is taking care of maintenance. No. It is not that different demigods are handling different departments independently, but all of them depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the root of the tree. And to this root of the tree, Brahmaji is offering obeisances. Prabhupada says, due to pure fund of knowledge, impersonalist does not believe in the personal management of the universe. Right? People feel, oh, everything is illusion, everything is temporary, and all these demigods, vagara, nobody exists. Prabhupada says, nothing is empty. Prabhupada's famous quote, nothing is empty except the brain of the impersonalist. Right? Prabhupada says, everything is personal and nothing is impersonal. And we have already seen this. There is a tree which has root upwards, and the entire tree will be, is expanded downwards. Somebody may feel, Arey, is this a typing mistake? Root upwards? No, there is such a tree. When you see the reflection of the tree on the banks of a river, you will see that the roots of the tree are upward and the reflection is downward. Urdhva moolam, adashakam, ashwatham, such a ashwatha tree, prahuravvyam, chandansi yasya paranani, yastvam vedasa vedavid. So this is the tree which is expanded. But the reflection tree means there is some original tree. Similarly, the Bhautik Jagat, material world, is the reflection tree of the spiritual world. There is a spiritual tree, there is a Vaikuntha Jagat, and the material world is simply a reflection. And this material reflection appears to be very real and giving us experience because of the great conditioning, and the jiva is because enamored by enjoying the fruits of the tree, which are illusory. One may see the mango tree, and in the reflection also one will see the mango. And one will try to dive the mango only to break his head, because the mango is not there in the reflection in the water. Mango is there on the real tree. Right? And this real tree is situated in the real existence of the spiritual nature. And the root of both the spiritual tree and the reflection tree is the Supreme Lord. And here, Lord Brahma is offering obeisances to the root of the tree, and thus is praying for creative empowerment. And here is offering obeisances on behalf of both Lord Shiva and Brahma. Both of them are offering obeisances. Very beautiful verse, very beautiful purport. Text 17. Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramatta कर्मण्ययै त्वदुदिते भवदर्चने स्वे यस्तावदस्य बलवानिह जीविताशाम् सद्गच्छन्ति अनिमिषाय नमस्तु तस्मै. Translation.
People in general all engage in foolish acts, not in the really beneficial activities enunciated directly by you for their guidance. As long as their tendency for foolish work remains powerful, all their plans in the struggle for existence will be cut to pieces. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, unto him who acts as eternal time. Purport. People in general are all engaged in senseless work. They are systematically unmindful of the real beneficial work, which is the devotional service of the Lord, technically called the Archana regulations. The Archana regulations are directly instructed by the Lord in the Narada Pancharatra and are strictly followed by the intelligent men who know well that the highest perfectional goal of life is to reach Lord Vishnu, who is the root of the tree called cosmic manifestation. Also in the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, such regulative activities are clearly mentioned. Foolish people do not know that their self-interest in realization of Vishnu. The Bhagavatam 7.5.30 to 32 says,
Matirna Krishne Paratasvato va Mitho Vipagded Grahavratanam
Adantagobhirvishatantamishram Punah Punashcharvita Charvananam Nate Vidu Swarthagatim Hi Vishnum Durashaya Ye Bahirarthamanina Andha Yathandhair Upaniyamanas Tepi Shatantriam Urudam Nidabadha नैषामतिस्तावद उरुक्रमाङ्घ्रिं स्पृशति अनर्थापगमो यदार्था महीयशां पादरजोऽभिषेकं निष्किञ्चनानां न वृणीत यावत्. Persons who are determined to totally rot in false material happiness cannot become Krishna minded either by instructions from teachers, by self realization, or by parliamentary discussions. They are dragged by the unbribed senses into the darkest region of the ignorance, and thus they mightily engage in what is called chewing the chewed. Because of their foolish activities, they are unaware that the ultimate goal of human life is to achieve Vishnu, the Lord of the cosmic manifestation, and so their struggle for existence is in the wrong direction of material civilization, which is under the external energy. They are led by similar foolish persons, just as one blind man is led by another blind man, and both fail in the ditch. Such foolish men cannot be attracted towards the activities of the Supreme Powerful, who is actually the neutralizing measure for their foolish activities, unless and until they have the good sense to be guided by the great souls who are completely freed from the material attachment. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asks everyone to give up all other occupational duties and absolutely engage in archana activities or in pleasing the Lord. But almost no one is attracted to such archana activities. Everyone is more or less attracted by the activities which are conditions of rebellion against the Supreme Lord. The systems of jnana and yoga are also indirectly rebellious acts against the Lord. There is no auspicious activity except archana of the Lord. Jnana and yoga are sometimes accepted within the purview of archana when the ultimate aim is Vishnu and not otherwise. The conclusion is that only the devotees of the Lord are bona fide human beings eligible for salvation. Others are vainly struggling for existence without any actual benefit.
Brahmaji says, people in general engage in all types of foolish activities, not really beneficial to themselves. And as long as this tendency for the foolish work remain powerful, all their plans in the struggle of existence will be cut to pieces. And therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the eternal time. So previously, the obeisances are to the Supreme Lord, who is eternal tree, and now the obeisances to the Supreme Lord, who is eternal time. How beautifully Brahmaji is glorifying, offering obeisances in a different way, right? So it's tree, now it's time. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, people in general are all engaged in senseless work. They are systematically unmindful, what a beautiful words, of the real beneficial work, which is the archana regulations. Modern day, even, you will hear now, because it is January is going on 2025, that people and we ourselves, we get into the day and almost 60 to 70% of the day generally goes in an autopilot mode. Autopilot mode means we are unaware of what we are doing. Of course, this may be essential activities, but the day simply goes in an autopilot mode, right? So what is the glory? Glory is that we have to set the autopilot in a very constructive, beneficial, and devotional way. All these three. Like, every day, even 7:10 to 7:40 also goes in autopilot mode. But it's a very constructive autopilot. Similarly, we should have time for chanting. We should have, of course, time for our varnashram activities. And one should do the constructive, beneficial activities in such a way. Otherwise, without these regulatory activities, the life is simply a wasted life. Srila Prabhupada here quotes prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. Matirna Krishne Paratasvatova. People, they are determined to rot in the false material happiness. Prahlad Maharaj says, cannot become Krishna minded either by instructions of others or themselves. And thus, they are simply trying to chew the chewed. What is that chewing the chewed? The same material happiness, ahar, nidra, bhaya, ityadi, Life after life, a living entity has tried and again trying in a different shape, different form, and thinking that this time I will get some different rasa, only to realize at the time of death it was worthless. Right. So, and therefore, therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, thus a person unaware of the real swartha. Everybody wants to become swarthi, but first thing, they don't understand what is swa. They think swa means body. No, swa is atma. And swartha, real swartha, Prahlad Maharaj says, nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. The real swartha is surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. People don't understand this. And thus what they do, they will struggle, durashraya ye bahirarthamanina. They will struggle very hard in the material existence only to fall into the ditch, andhayata andhe rupagiyamana. Just like a blind leading a blind, the leader and the follower, everybody fall into the ditch. And that is the condition. And such people can come to some good sense only when they follow the instructions of the pure devotees. Mahiyasam padarajobhishekam. The personalities who are fully dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita says, one should stop the unnecessary pursuit in terms of karma and jnana and should simply embrace to devotional service. Prabhupada says here, in a way, even the activate systems of karma yoga and jnana yoga and the yoga system are also indirectly revelations against the Supreme Lord. Why? Because in both these yogas, one ultimately wants to become one with the Supreme. Prabhupada calls it as the last snare of Maya. And therefore, there is envy, still there is a rebellion against the Supreme Lord. And very rarely such personalities may conclude with devotional service, which is the actual position of the jiva. And therefore, conclusion is that only the devotees of the Lord are the bona fide human beings eligible for ultimate salvation. Others are simply struggling, verily struggling for the existence without any actual benefit. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.